All right, good evening, everyone. I hope you're all doing well. Welcome to the 2021 Difference Maker Idea Challenge Workshop Series. This evening is Workshop 2 on assessing opportunities and value proposition. Many of you probably know me by now, but I will introduce myself. My name is Holly Lalos, and I'm the Entrepreneurial Initiatives Program Director of Difference Maker. So just a couple of announcements before we get started. Brent, if you want to change the slide, thank you. So your idea plans are due March 5th by 5 p.m. I know I've been emailing you all about this. And again, the workshop series is to help you build up your idea plan by utilizing the Difference Maker Toolkit, which are the various worksheets that we're working on throughout this 4-part series. So you simply log in to your idea platform account and you can click on the idea plan there to complete it. If you want to start doing that now, you can save it and always go back and log in and work on it again, but just make sure that you hit the submit button by March 5th. And if you have any questions or need help, you can reach out directly to me, which is just my first name _ last name at uml.edu. So now it's my pleasure to introduce the 2 guest speakers and facilitators of Workshop 2, Dr. Brent Schell, who's a professor in the Zuckerberg College of Health Sciences, and Dr. Neil Shortland, who's a professor in Fine Arts, Humanities, and Social Sciences. And they both are Difference Maker faculty fellows. So with that, I hope you all enjoy this workshop, and thank you, Brent and Neil.
Thank you so much. We're excited to be here tonight and excited to get started, to get to talk about assessing opportunities and value propositions. But before we get to that, we're actually going to take a step back and kind of give everyone a chance to rehash what they learned last time and to practice just a little bit, because the best way to get your pitch down is to get some practice and to try it a couple different times. And that really helps to refine the language that you use and also how you sell what it is that you want people to buy into, that you want them to understand how it works and understand why it's important. So the last time you worked on problem identification, right? You're not solving anything yet. You're just trying to figure out what the problem is. And you worked on pitching that problem to try and explain to someone else what that problem was so that they could see that problem. Today, what we're going to do is evaluate the opportunities that can exist as a result of that problem. As a result of that pain, what exists? What is available for you to do to address that? And how big is that opportunity? And then we're going to use that as a way to start thinking about who could potentially be a competitor, what already exists in that space, and then you'll refine your value proposition with Dr. Shortland, and then we'll pitch all of that. So let's get started and let's think about what was discussed last time in Workshop 1. So in Workshop 1, you had to identify the problem. You had to figure out what it was exactly that you wanted to solve. And in order to understand what it was that you wanted to solve, you had to think a bit about who would be affected by that problem, who is actually impacted by that problem, and how significant is that impact? Is it extremely detrimental where they might need something immediate or an emergency kind of resource? Or is it something that's more of a minor thing that if it's available, they would use it, but it's not something that they're seeking out actively? So we need to make sure that we understand how important the problem is to both the people who might be, interested in some kind of solution and people who might be implementing such a solution. And so, in order to really understand this, we can make some guesses. We can kind of surmise what we think may be the reality. But the best way to know is to do some research and find out, to discuss people who actually experience the problem, to work with those people, and then also to do more broader market research. So, there's a great way to do that is just to go out and talk to people, to develop surveys, to discuss with people, as well as to do the broader research in terms of library databases, or there may be specific resources available for that particular problem. And these are things that you've likely already filled in to some degree on your difference maker toolkit problem worksheet. So what we're going to do is whoever attended the last meeting or someone who feels like they've got a fairly good idea, a handle on their problem, let us know what your problem is. So we'll have a few people tell us about their problem and identify specifically what that particular problem is, and try and get this down in less than a minute, because we have to think ahead to the fact that there's going to be a lot of elements you have to include in your pitch. And so the problem is only one small portion of that overall pitch. So let's try and get this down to less than a minute and explain what the problem is and why we should all be invested in this problem, or explain who is invested in this problem. So why don't we have a couple of volunteers? Let us know who you are. If you have a team name that you would like for us to know, you can let us know about that. That way, if people are interested in learning more about your team, they can reach out and contact you. And then also then give us your 1 minute. What is the problem? Who is affected by the problem? Or who do you currently think is affected? If you're not entirely sure everyone that may be affected, and then you can let us get a hint as to how you think you may want to solve the problem. So would anyone like to volunteer? Would anyone like to share what their problem is? This is a great time to get a little bit of practice in. All right, Max Charles would like to go first. So if you'd like to unmute yourself, then you can give us your pitch.
All right, can you hear me? All right, okay, cool. So my name is Max Charles. My team name is Stem Cells. And what I'm working pretty much on my project is trying to help improve the process of like stem cell therapy, or like making it and trying to improve it to try to make it more accessible and stuff like that, or just like trying to make it more trying to make it better in a sense, or more, or like how do I say it? Yeah, like health insurance and stuff like that. Pretty much health insurance doesn't cover right now because it's not fully credible, or there hasn't been like enough like research and stuff back behind it. So like one thing I'm trying to specifically focus on is turning turning things called pluripotent stem cells into muscle cells. And then the problem that it will solve is that in doing this will help with improve the stem cell therapy process. And since like what it does is it helps like injuries through tissue regeneration. And with that, muscle injuries count for about a third of injuries. And a lot of like injuries, like for example like chronic injuries, which is what I would hope to see improve with stem cell therapy once it becomes more accepted in the future.
Yeah, all right. I think you got the problem identified there, and you've already done some research. You've got good background. You're starting to elaborate on who's affected by the problem. So I think you've got all the pieces you need in there to tell us what the problem is, and then who's affected by the problem. I think if you go any farther, you're going to tell us a lot about the solution, and we're not quite there yet. So I think you've put in a lot of work already. I can see it, but we're not quite to that point. So don't worry, you're going to get to tell us all about it soon. But we don't want to spoil it yet, right?
Okay.
So if you're interested in that, you can join Team Stem Cells, or you can reach out and ask to join. Great job. It sounds like you've already got a lot going on. Would anyone else like to let us know a little bit about their problem? Let us know who you think may be affected by it, and then we'll dive into to what opportunities there may be. All right, Jack Ryan, let us know about what problem or what pain may exist, and then let us know who you think may be affected by it.
All right. So can you hear me? So my group is called An Apple a Day, and the problem we're trying to solve is trying to make a pill container that is more friendly for kids. So there are a good amount of kids that are taking medications, and it's tough for them to adhere to their medication regimen while they're going to school. If they forget their pill case at home, then that might cause a trouble. So we're trying to make a pill case that is easily taken on the go, and it appeals to kids, interests with fun shapes.
All right. It sounds like you've identified a problem there. It sounds like you've got an idea as to who the market may be and who may be potentially affected by that problem. So it sounds like you've already done some good thinking on this. Maybe you've done a little bit of research on it. Well, you've got that down solid in less than a minute. So you're off to a great start there. So I think you're ready for the next step. And the next step is going to be assessing opportunities. And this is really important because we make a lot of assumptions when we start thinking about what affects us or what may affect other groups of people. And we have a lot of ideas and we kind of are just like, oh, this is really important. But it's difficult to really say how important something is without having some kind of research or some kind of data to back that up. And it's especially difficult to convince someone else how important something is when you don't have anything that you've actually tried out or something that you've actually got data on. And that's why we really need to make sure that we assess the opportunity before we get too far into our idea and think that we know exactly how things are going to work out. This allows us to kind of sample the water and understand what the opportunity is and how big that opportunity is. And so that's what's being described at the bottom here is that the opportunity is the circumstances that create the need for the product, the need for the service, the need for your business, and what makes it possible, right? And so we need to discover exactly what that entails, who that entails, and then what we need to make that a feasible venture, what we need to make that the opportunity that people are actually seeking out and not the opportunity that we're providing that they're not looking for. So I'll give you some examples of this. That way we can kind of get a better idea. So I'll give you some general examples, and then we'll see some specific difference maker examples and how some other teams have tackled this. So I'm going to give you the example of I have an idea. I'm not going to say it's a good idea. I am going to say it's a bad idea. I think that everything should taste like pickles. When I eat stuff, when I use stuff, it should taste like pickles, right? And so I think other people share this. I think everybody wants everything to taste like pickles. And so I've got pickle toothpaste. And I think everybody's going to want it. So let's see. How about we have a show of hands? Who wants my pickle toothpaste? There, there's always one, right? There's always one. One person wants my pickle toothpaste. But there's a lot of us here. And if only one person makes pickle toothpaste, is pickle toothpaste a viable business idea? Is it worth the research and development to produce pickle toothpaste, the marketing, and then actually selling pickle toothpaste? No, it's not, right? But how do I know that? Well, I need to assess the opportunity. I need to know, do I want pickle toothpaste or does the world want pickle toothpaste? Do other people go through their day thinking, why doesn't this taste like pickles? They don't, but they could. And that's why we need to assess this opportunity because someone made pickle toothpaste, right? I picked this picture up. I didn't make it. Someone made it. It was a product. It's not a product anymore, but it was a product for a while, right? Maybe this could still exist as some kind of gag gift, but it doesn't seem like there's a lot of market for pickle toothpaste based on the fact that I can't buy it. And I bring this up every time I do this workshop, and I've never been able to find one of these to buy. So if you have some, let me know. I'll buy some pickle toothpaste from you. All right. So why did I mention that? Why am I talking about pickle toothpaste? It's because we need to know how good our opportunity is. And pickle toothpaste is a ridiculous example, but it does allow us to illustrate something. I thought that was important, right? I thought that there was this pain in the world where more people wanted things to taste like pickle. They were missing this, right? They thought it was something that they needed. It wasn't. It didn't fill anything in their life that they needed. It was new, it might have been novel, but it wasn't better and it wasn't needed. It wasn't wanted. So even though it was a new product and a new way of doing something, it wasn't going to be something that everyone wanted. And the only way I could figure that out is by doing the research behind it. And so it can't just be that you want this and you want to sell this. Other people have to want to buy this. You have to fulfill a need. You have to fix a pain or somehow ameliorate a pain in the market. And you need to know that that exists, not just for you, but for those that may be interested in your product. So you've got to drive this not by what you think is best, but what the market thinks is best, or by what is actually needed within the market. And so I'll give you another example. This is an actual patent. I'm going to give you a patent number. You can go look this up. This is a real patent that exists. So this is an apparatus for use as a toy by an animal, for example, a dog, to either fetch, carry, or chew. It is patent number 6360693B1. So if you are at the park with your dog and I show up and I try and sell you this, do you want to buy this from me? Does anyone want to buy this from me? Why not? How come no one wants to buy this? I think it's great. I've tested it on dogs. Dogs think it's great, but no one will buy it from me. Why will no one buy this product from me? Because it's a stick, right? It's free. Why would someone pay me for this? They're everywhere. They're literally falling out of trees. So even though this sounds great, and I did my research with dogs, dogs don't have money. So dogs can't give me money for this. Their owners have money. That's where the opportunity is. The opportunity is, what will the owners buy? And even though I did my research with dogs and dogs thought it was overwhelmingly a hit, the dogs never pay me for it. So when it came time to sell it, no one was going to buy it because it was literally given away for free, falling out of trees. And that's why we need to do this. This is, again, a goofy example, but it does happen, right? Someone actually patented this. I don't know how it worked out, but I've never seen it for sale. So then let's see some actual difference maker ideas, right? You've seen my goofy ideas. Let's see some actual difference maker ideas. So you can see the picture at the bottom right there. It is two recipients from Enable, and you can see that they have prosthetics. But these prosthetics are different, right? There's clearly a market for prosthetics. There's clearly individuals who need that. It clearly alleviates a pain. It increases function. But the difference here is that they're not expensive prosthetics, right? That they found the people who could use these prosthetics. They figured out what age they were. They figured out what the potential market was in terms of the income of these people. Where do they live? How could they get them to them? They figured all this stuff out, and they found that serving the community with cheaper, affordable prosthetics, or free in some cases as donations, were the best way for them to move forward with their idea. And they knew this because of the data that they gathered, because they spoke with people, because they worked with people to understand how they could make the prosthetics needed at the price point needed, right? They might have grand ideas for elaborate prosthetics that are very expensive and amazing, but that wasn't what the market needed, right? That wasn't the opportunity that was available. So these are all things to think about, right? And my goofy example with the dog stick, that was something that sounds great, but dogs don't have money, so I couldn't sell it to them. Their owners wouldn't pay for it. Another example of understanding who's affected by it, but also who pays for it, right? I needed to know all of these things. So the other thing we have to think of is how many people, right? Are there a lot of people potentially? Because if there's a lot of people, there may be competing products that could exist. There's competing opportunities. So if there's only a few people who need it, there may not be a lot of opportunity there. But if a million people need it, there might be opportunities for multiple different products in that same kind of space because the opportunity is so big. That also tells you how big the scale of your idea is. Do you need to make enough of this stuff for the immediate area? Is it something for Massachusetts, right? Is it something for the entire United States? Is it something for the entire world? How big is it? How big can it become? And how big of a space can you actually service, right? Maybe everyone wants a hot air balloon to take to work, but that's just not feasible because no one knows how to pilot them and it would get really congested. That's something to think about. Even if everyone wants it, it may not be feasible for everyone to have it because then it stops being interesting, right? This is why they sell clothing in small batches, right? Because then it's a limited number of people who get that particular drop and it makes it more exciting. If everyone has it, no one's interested in it. So you also need to identify, and this is critical, who is your first customer? Because your first customer may not be the bulk of your customers, but it may be the person that you need to get the idea off the ground. You need a minimum viable product and a person who's going to buy that first thing to get you to perhaps some of the bigger things. That's part of the opportunity, are these stepping stones that you set up to continue your idea forward. And all of this is driven by research. So this is just some example of some really basic research, right? This isn't anything elaborate. This is just asking people about who uses cell phones versus tablets versus like a PC or something like that, right? And so it's just giving you basic information. This is demographic information. There's no statistical analysis. None of this is very complicated. But even with this basic data that's been gathered, it tells you a lot. Just looking at the graph on the left, what we can see is that if you wanted to sell a smartphone app, right, you would be hard pressed to sell it to the 55 plus age group because a lot of them are using tablets more frequently than they might be using cell phones, right? It would be better for you to target something like 18 to 24, 25 to 34. A large proportion of these people have these kinds of devices. And This doesn't take into account the number of total population of each age group there, but the point is that we can still get a lot of information off of this, and it helps us to refine who the opportunity might be for, right? How much opportunity is there in the 55 plus age group? It doesn't seem like there's quite as much there, right? And so we can get a lot of information about this, but the way we get this information is through research, and the research is how we understand the size of our opportunity. So here's an example. This is Voted. And their idea was to create an app in which it would educate voters on issues in a very short time frame, right? People don't have time to go and read entire bills and see how everyone voted all the time. So this is kind of uh, it's almost like a Tinder thing where you could swipe and then it would, how do you feel about this issue? And you swipe and then it takes your information as you decide on things, and it tells you what candidates best match the ideas that you just agreed with and you disagreed with. And so this was going to be a way for them to better educate voters as they came up to the next election, and maybe what ballot measures were there, who was on the ballot in terms of candidates, all those kinds of things. And so they needed to identify who would be using this app. And so they needed to know specifically in Massachusetts, because initially this was going to be rolled out just in Massachusetts and then expand beyond that. They needed to understand who were the voters, who were voters who would use the app, and who are voters interested in gaining more information about the particular issues. And so you can see how they mapped out their opportunity. They've found the number of voters 18 to 24, all voters in Mass, all voters in the US, and voters 18 to 24 in the US, giving them an idea as to what market segment they should target and how many total people were in that market that potentially they could reach. How big is their opportunity? Well, it depends on which segment they wanted to target in the graph, right? And so this gave them an idea about the size of their opportunity. Here's ETRALock. ETRALock was looking to develop a lock system for a door where someone who maybe didn't have the mobility anymore to be able to turn the handle effectively. Perhaps it was painful. Perhaps their joints just didn't appreciate that kind of movement. This way they could approach the door, and through ETRALock, they would be able to gain access to whatever building it was without having to do that painful motion or perhaps that restricted motion. And so they needed to know about who had discomfort, right? They went out and interviewed people and found out who had discomfort. And then amongst that particular population they were interested in, what percentage of them had that discomfort? What percentage of them had dissatisfaction with the current solution? How much money was being spent in that particular industry for smart products that helped to make it easier for people to do their daily life functions, right? The assistive technology market, how big was it? What other players were occupying that space? What other people were taking advantage of that opportunity pool to see where their particular lock could fit? They could also separate this down by region to figure out perhaps where their first customer may be. Maybe there's an underserved segment of the United States that really needs these kind of devices that isn't being served with these devices. These are all things they figured out through their research. These are all ways for them to understand where their product needed to be delivered to, who it needed to be delivered to, and how much of it needed to be delivered. They didn't have to know the exact details of what their solution was going to be, right? They could assess this opportunity without having the solution decided on. And in fact, assessing the opportunity changed what their solution was. It changed what they were going to offer because they found where the most opportunity was and pursued that. So here's one more example. It's another goofy example, right? So let's assess an opportunity. I abandoned my pickle idea and I didn't sell any of my dog toys. So now I'm going to make an iPhone case because I've seen people and people have iPhones. And it sounds like this is going to be great because I looked around and there's tons of them. And I thought to myself, that's a huge opportunity, right? But I have to then think about who else has seen this? Who else is aware of all of these iPhones? So who else is doing something similar? So I figured I'd go check out the competition, right? That's part of the opportunity, is who else is in the space. And I searched for iPhone cover, and apparently there's over 50,000 of them available on Amazon, which is to say the opportunity is really big, but it's getting smaller and smaller by the moment because there's so many other people addressing that. There are cases that are decorative. There are cases that are functional. There are cases that are protective. There are cases that have batteries, and there are cases that have kickstands. All of these things have been addressed. If I want to sell my case, I'm going to have to make a case for my case, right? I need to know how big my case's market share could potentially be, how big my opportunity is for my product. And that means I have to know what specifically my product is there for. What is its specific opportunity? what is different about it? Where is the gap that I can fill? What is the thing that it does that these other things didn't do? Or what does it do better? Or what does it do cheaper? Or what does it do different? That's the opportunity. And so I need to figure out that opportunity, and I need to figure that out through research. I'd probably have to ask people and have them try it out, see what they thought, see if they thought there was something missing from their current case, see if there was something they were looking for in a future case. These are all parts of the opportunity. These are all things that I would need to understand because there's so many competitors, right? And they're all over the market. They're being sold everywhere. So it may be difficult to find any opportunity within this market segment. All right, so here's an example. So this is Use Cart. And Use Cart is a smart shopping cart that you'd go into a store, get products, and as you throw them into the cart, it would know what those products were, and then you just be able to check out with the cart and walk out of the store. So essentially, you don't have to go stand in line. You don't have to use like a U-Scan type device. The cart is taking care of it for you. And so this would be a product that isn't developed for one store. It would be more of a general product that then multiple stores could say, I want some of these. That way, when people come in, they can grab one of these carts and use it. And it's common amongst a lot of different stores. And so they needed to know where this would be useful. Clearly, large companies like Amazon don't need it because they already have a no checkout system where you just go in, get stuff, and then walk out. But this would be great for stores that already have an existing like checkout system, but now want to have this ease of use thing. So existing grocery stores that may not have the technological capacity to do this on their own, but want to be able to compete with the larger, more technologically savvy companies like Amazon. So think smaller grocery stores in local regions. Those were going to be the opportunity there because they needed to make this, you know, an available way for them to check out merchandise, for them to have people buy their goods. And so they had to find that. They had to go talk to grocery stores. They had to go talk to smaller places and see if this was something that they'd want, ask them what their plans were to deal with things like Amazon and larger companies like that. They had to figure out if shoppers wanted this. Were they satisfied with the current method? Were they unsatisfied? Would they use something that sounded like this? Did they already have ideas as to how they wanted the future to be in terms of how they bought goods at the grocery store? All of these were parts of the opportunity. They had to figure out who and how and where this was going to be implemented. And so UseCard had to identify all of this stuff as a part of their opportunity. And then you can see down here that they had to differentiate themselves. They had to explain to people what was different. That way, if they only saw part of the opportunity, they then explained the rest of the opportunity as well. So it helped to clarify anyone's beliefs as to what this would be and what exactly the size of the opportunity was. So now we're going to try this out, right? I could tell you a bunch of goofy examples all night, but really the important thing is that we get a chance to all try this out. So you've identified a problem, and now it's time to think about that problem. It's a great time to do just kind of like some mental research or think about where you'd want to find data on this. It's a great time to get an idea as to what you think the size of the opportunity is. Who else is occupying that space, right? Is that a really large opportunity, but there's a lot of competitors? And so your opportunity within that larger pool may be small. Think about who might be experience the pain, who would want to have some way to fix that. Think about why this is an important opportunity to the people you're going to be selling this to and why it's important beyond what competitors potentially have. So what are you going to do to differentiate yourself? And that one, you don't have to worry about too much because we're going to spend some time. Dr. Shortland is going to talk about that in just a bit. So for now, just try and figure out what the size of your opportunity is for your problem. Try and get an idea as to what you want to research in order to get this picture clarified. So you can kind of make some assumptions now, but you'll definitely want to do research before you actually have to say, this is the size of my opportunity. There is a worksheet to go along with this. The opportunity worksheet will help you work through this. That way you've got, you know, something to make it easy to fill in to make sure that it all is making sense to you. So I'll bring up a picture of it. If you need a copy of it, we can post a copy in chat so you can see that opportunity worksheet there, right? And this will allow you to go through the problem. We're going to work through the opportunity today. So start filling that out. That just got linked in chat as well. And so we're about to all go to breakout rooms. You will be able to change what breakout room you're in. You'll be able to select which one you want to go to. And then if you find that you thought it was working well, but it may not be exactly what your idea is gearing towards, you can swap to a different breakout room. We have facilitators in all the rooms to help answer your questions. And we'll also have people out here in the main area if you have questions as well. So why don't we go ahead and everyone can break out into their individual rooms and start thinking about your opportunity and how big it is and where you're going to get information about it. And then we'll come back and we'll have a few people present before we switch to the value proposition. If you've got questions, I'm happy to answer them. But if not, why don't we go ahead and start sorting into breakout rooms? All right, it looks like just about everyone is back. Hopefully you had a chance to kind of think about what your opportunity is, to evaluate its size, and to evaluate then specifically within that opportunity how big your segment might be. So how about we get a few people to tell us about their problem and then to give us an idea about the size of their opportunity. So who would like to share about their problem and their opportunity and let us know what they came up with? All right. Annie, let us know about your opportunity and give us just a quick summary of your problem as well. We'd love to hear it.
Hi, my name's Annie, and I'm the team leader for Package Partner. So basically, the problem is dealing with package theft. You know, a lot of packages are stolen, and especially with the boom of e-commerce, we're going to keep ordering more stuff online. And basically, the opportunity is I wanted to focus on independent homeowners because a lot of them, like, they don't have a clubhouse or something where their packages can be delivered securely. And, you know, sometimes the mailman leaves the package at the front door or the garage. So that would be my market size.
Oh, it's wonderful. You articulated your problem perfectly, right? That was just like a sentence or two, and then you told us exactly who was going to be a part of that, who's getting packages delivered. You told us you were going to focus on the homeowner segment as opposed to someone who has a package room, like you said, apartments and other like condos, things like that. So it sounds like you've already put some really great thought into your particular opportunity and then subsections within that opportunity to really identify it. I think you're off to a great start. I think the next step there might be to go and find out if there are specific segments of homeowners who tend to experience more package misdelivery or package theft, to figure out who specifically within the homeowner segment is likely looking for that kind of solution. But it sounds like you have a great start. That was a wonderful, brief explanation. That was a great rocket pitch start. So if anyone's interested in that stuff, it sounds like she has a wonderful start on that. So who else would like to share about their their problem? Not quite at the product yet. And then also let us know a bit about the opportunity. All right, Alexander, let us know about the problem that you're thinking of and then what you think your opportunity is for that problem.
Okay, my team is the Wonder Wheel team. And our problem is that there are devices called wheelchair power assists, which are basically electrical devices to propel a manual wheelchair. And they're for people who don't quite need a power chair, but still need assistance. And the problem is a lot of these devices, even with insurance, people can't, there are a lot of people who can't afford them. And this especially affects people who have medical disorders that, you know, they can walk around the home. So insurance will say it's not necessary, but they would still benefit from the device outside of the home. And currently, a lot of the devices on the market are thousands of dollars. Like there's one, the Smart Drive MX2 is $6,000, which costs more than some power wheelchairs. And what we've done with research so far is there's a lot of demand from groups like people who have the certain disorders like EDS, which is connective tissue disorder, because if they use a wheelchair they use a wheelchair to avoid stressing their joints, but the problem is manually using a wheelchair stresses other joints.
It sounds like you have done a substantial amount of research and you've already got price points and ideas. That sounds wonderful. It sounds like you've put a lot of work into it. I think you've got a substantial amount of information on this. So I think the best thing is to go out there and talk with people and discuss with them, you know, how are they finding their current solution? Does this sound like a potential solution or a viable solution to them? It sounds like you've got a great start though, and you've got a really clear idea about your opportunity size and a little bit of the specifics within that overall opportunity size. So that's fantastic. Great job. All right. Who else would like to tell us about their problem and then describe their opportunity or what they think is their opportunity so far?
Brent, we have Sadman has his hand up, so I think he may be ready to go.
Yeah, would you like to go next?
Yes, okay. So first of all, although I haven't discussed this in the breakout room, it's just my idea that popped a few weeks ago, is that today we are, I forgot the statistics, but let me try to solve, like, say the problem. We are aware of animal abuse, especially in farms, like chicken abuse or buffaloes, or like while we are extracting meat from them. So I believe, okay, let me not go to the solution, but there is an opportunity that this can be, we can stop this animal abuse through laws, but despite that, to get enough production, we can make use of stem cells to reproduce the same cells to give us the milk and to give us the eggs that we actually get from those organic produce. So that was basically it.
All right. It sounds like you've had some time to think about this idea and kind of get an idea as to how you may solve that problem. As far as the opportunity is concerned, and that kind of you probably need to research as to how viable it would be to produce all these things, and in what kind of quantity you could produce them, and then also get an idea as to who may be purchasing them. Right? Would people feel comfortable purchasing this if it was the first generation of that type of product, and it hadn't been offered before? So it'd be definitely worthwhile to start identifying who is your first customer, right? Who is your first market segment? Who would be especially interested in that idea? But it sounds like you're off to a great start there. And it's important for everyone to think about who is going to be paying for this product, right? Who is actually going to be spending money on it, and also who's going to be utilizing it, because the person who's paying for the product isn't always the person who is going to be utilizing it. And so that's something important to think about. Thinking about the assisted wheelchair device, right? They mentioned insurance, so it may be at first best glance you're like, oh, a person would pay for this, but it may be insurance that pays for it. Or in terms of the product that was just mentioned, it could be that you're thinking of people in the end market purchasing this, but it may be that you're actually trying to sell it to the store, right? It may be that you don't sell them into individual people, but you're trying to sell it to medium or large size grocery stores to carry your product, and so they would be purchasing it from you before people would purchase it from them. All right, so I think we've got enough time for one more group to share their idea before we start thinking about value propositions. Nicole, would you like to tell us about your opportunity and let us know about your problem?
Hi, I'm Nicole. So our group is the Millennial Finance Educators. And the problem that we were trying to solve was the lack of financial literacy in the education system. So especially with teens and college students, I just think there's not too much information about money management and kind of setting yourself up financially. So our group wants to create a platform to help students with that. Prior to this, I did do a little bit of research for the opportunity. I noticed UMass Lowell actually has a money management page. It's just not as detailed as I think our group was hoping to have our program be. And I know a lot of banks as well give a lot of information on budgeting and things like that, but just still not as in depth as our program would be.
Yeah, that sounds wonderful. It sounds like you put a lot of thought into it. It sounds like you either have experience or you've spoken with some people about this kind of idea, so that you've kind of gotten a way to evaluate, is this a pain point for people? Is this something that they're looking for? And so now you're just refining down who specifically would you market this to, and where is the opportunity at? Where would they want to receive this kind of information? Where would they go looking for this kind of information? So where is the opportunity present, right? Where is someone actually going to want to alleviate this kind of pain? So I think you're off to a great start. If anyone has questions about that or would like to know more about the team, you can reach out in chat as well. All right, so it is about 6:20, so I think we're going to start transitioning and thinking about the value. And so this is a quick reminder of what we just discussed, just so we're all on the same page. It's important when you're going forward to actually ask people. So if you think that this is going to be where your opportunity is at, discuss with the people who would actually want to have this pain alleviated, right? It's a great thing to go out and sit down and talk with people. I realize that that's not something that you can really do right now, but you could have Zoom meetings, you could do questionnaires, you could just discuss with them over the phone, right? Get an idea as to how you would implement the idea, as to who your users are, who your customers are, the idea of who's going to be paying for it versus who's going to be utilizing it. It's a great thing to discuss with the faculty fellows and to discuss with Difference Maker as well. There's a lot of teams who have gone through this and had to think about how they were going to figure out the size of their opportunity and get some data on it. And so past experience may be useful. There may be someone that you can connect with who can help you to really figure out how big your opportunity is. And then the library is always a wonderful place, right? There's tons of other market research that's already been done that you can use a piece of or maybe use a large chunk of in order to get a real clear idea about the size of your opportunity. So now what you're going to do is take the problem and take the opportunity, and we're going to take that a step farther, and we're going to start thinking about the value proposition. And this is where Dr. Shortland is going to come in, and he's going to get you thinking about not only who is affected by this, how big is that group, but also what value are you delivering to the group? So what is the value that you offer them, and why is that important? So I will pass it off to him, and he will let you know about the value proposition.
Thank you, Brent. I appreciate that a lot. Do you want to end the share screen and let me take over, or do you want to just kind of be my slide guy?
I'll end it and you can take over. No worries.
Oh, come on now. All right, let me do share screen. Let me find my screen. Share screen. There we go. Can everyone see that? We good?
Looks good.
There we go. I change slides. Why can't I change slides? Oh, hang on. There we go. All right, everybody. How are we doing? So we've basically we're at the point now where we've identified an opportunity or an area in need of innovation. We've identified the market and kind of the need and this opportunity that's in front of us. And what is my job? My job is to help us understand how to convey the need for your product or solution in a way that is going to maximize people's willingness or want to engage in it, to buy it, whatever it is. Now, this may sound like a strange background to have, speaking to a very business engineering group, but my background is actually psychology. And one of the things that I specialize in is I specialize in the psychology of decision making. So how do people make decisions? And while that might sound not the most central thing, you all at some point, in order to succeed, need somebody to make the decision to use your product, to give you money, to invest. We had the pill example earlier for kids, right? You need people to make the decision to use the product that you've designed for them right now. Here's the problem with decision making as a whole, or dare I say, here's the problem with people as a whole. One, the assumption of rationality is not really there. So we have this base issue that not everyone is going to rationally weigh pros and cons. And two, the biggest hurdle in all of humanity at this point is getting people to overcome inertia and the status quo. And all of you, think about this, all of you are asking someone to change, right? You're asking them to change the way that they do something. And we as people, we as humans, love nothing more than staying exactly the same. So what the value proposition is about convincing someone, conveying your product and an idea in a way that is so convincing that you convince people to get off their ass and invest and spend and use. Think to yourself, right? There's a couple of examples I love to give. Think to yourself, how many products are thrown at you every single day? Be it forced advertising on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, the television, magazines, your parents. And sometimes you think to yourself, oh, that's actually really useful. Sometimes you start off by ignoring it. Sometimes you think, oh, that's really useful. And then you do nothing about it. Sometimes you think, oh, that's really useful. I'll probably buy that. And then you don't. And sometimes you think, absolutely, that's a game changer. And you click the button or you engage with the product or whatever it is, right? So we now, as budding salespeople, if you will, we need to understand what it is that gets people to the decision to engage, to use, to click, whatever it is, right? Now, there's a couple of examples I love to give, but let me give you one that I kind of go with. I know Brent gives the Brent gives the phone case example, right? And the kind of there's 50,000 different phone cases. Well, Brent, if there's 50,000 different phone cases, why did I have to spend 2 hours at the Apple store and $100 yesterday swapping in my iPhone because I smashed it to pieces for the 4th time? Right? This is the beauty of human behavior. I am immensely irrational sometimes. And so you could tell me that a $12 investment in an iPhone case is going to be a good thing for me. And I'm still not going to do it because in my weird mind, I am honestly prefer embracing the risk of smashing it to pieces weekly over the concept of having to put my beautiful iPhone in a case, right? Now, I'm not saying everyone's like that. I don't think the market is like me, but it shows you that sometimes the way in which we think people are going to make decisions and the things that we want people to be weighing are not always the things that they are weighing and the things that they are factoring into their decisions. Any of you, if any of you have ever studied the concept of kind of evolutionary psychology, one of the things we always ask about is this idea, it's called the Seinhauser effect. And it's a fundamental question of why on earth would anybody ever spend thousands and thousands of dollars on a pair of headphones that perform functionally the same as a much, much cheaper pair of headphones, right? Why do you buy an Apple instead of an Android? Why do you drive a Tesla instead of a Nissan Leaf, right? The way, in order to succeed in business, we need to understand the values that people are bringing in and using when they are embracing our products and things like that. And one of the things I want you to think about, right? Because what if you look at there's some psychology work out there on this idea that there are kind of 2 different types of values that people use, right? And so the first type of values that people use is they use something called basically secular values, right? We're thinking about things like time, money, things like that, like very mundane, very sensible things, right? So if you sell me this product, you will save me time, or you will in the long run save me money because it's cheaper than the competitors, right? That's fine. Those are important values that people will use and they'll factor in. But what I want you to think about is, in psychology, one of the things we know about values is that there is this concept of something called almost kind of a sacred value. And if you can think about what sacred value your product taps into, that's when people will really invest and really want to do it, because you're speaking about things that have a deep meaning to them. I'll give you one example from difference makers that I often go with. A couple of years ago, there was a team called Operation 250. Right. And so Operation 250 were an online safety program that went into different high schools and kind of taught kids to avoid risky things online. And yeah, if you think about their value proposition, what are they doing? Well, I mean, they are giving online safety training, which is good. Hopefully it'll increase retention. It'll improve their grades and you can sell it that way. But really what they were really tapping into when they were, talking about their product was they were tapping into maintaining kind of the innocence and purity of youth, and the safety of children, and the feeling of security. And these are things that you can't put money on. They're not dollar amounts, but these are deeply held psychological beliefs. And those are the things that guide us, right? Those are the things that really guide our behavior. So our value proposition can be about materialistic concepts. It can be about fiscal concepts. But I also want to challenge you to think about what are the overarching, almost philosophical and sacred concepts that you're really tapping into. Because if you can communicate those values and those issues to the consumer, then you're really going to be onto a really compelling message. And again, it's trying to help you win that uphill battle, basically, against the absolute laziness and inertia of the everyday human. And that commitment to doing what we're already doing, because it doesn't involve change. So to create change, you really need to tap into what their values are. And the last point I'll make on that is that you often have to think about, and this is why some of the issues that Brent was talking about, right? Assessing your opportunity and kind of understanding the requirement is so important, because if you're dealing with a product, so there's a difference maker product coming, one of the, I think, competitors this year and I were talking about one for school students, right? Now, in order for that product to work, they have to understand the values of the students themselves, right? In order to get student investment and to want students to use their products. Yeah, sorry, if anyone could sell me a product that would stop my dog, that would be great. At the same time, the person making the decisions about that product are the school board and the provost and the chancellor. And how you doing? Yeah, you good? Yeah, you're good. Right. The provost and the chancellor. There we go. Right, there we go. Right, the provost and the chancellor, who have a different value set. So when you think about who your audience are and who you're selling to and who you want to engage in your product, the different audiences that you need to kind of secure input and investment from, they may have their own value sets. And you need to be aware of that so you can talk to those values when you're selling and when you're speaking about your product. Good boy. Right, good boy. Yes. Okay, well, you're now here for the rest of the presentation. So I'm just going to give you a couple of examples from kind of previous difference makers that show you the kind of the value proposition. So this is one called the hydraulic walker, which is basically a walker for the elderly that utilizes hydraulic technology that can be used on stairs, right? Now, for the consumer, this is kind of the ways that we can think about our values here. For the consumer, some of the value proposition of this technology is that it decreases the risk of falling on stairs. It can prolong their living in homes. My wife, for example, is a nurse, right? So I'm well aware of what falling does. And so avoiding falling is this really important thing. One, it minimizes insurance claims, but it improves all of these ideas of quality of life and all this kind of stuff, right? So for the consumer, that's their value proposition. You can go up and down stairs safer and more effectively, right? For the hospital, not to say that they don't care about that, but their value is more about, well, hang on a minute, we need to work out how we can run and be an effective hospital. So the value proposition of the hydraulic walker to the hospital is that if you can decrease the number of people falling, you decrease the number of surgeries you need to be doing on these people, which means you can increase the number of surgeries you can do on everybody else, and not only general surgeries, but perhaps more profitable surgeries. So you as a hospital can be running far more economically, right? So the values of this product and of this service differ based on who they're talking to. But what they've done really well is they're aware of what's important to each of the different people that they're kind of selling to. And from a sacred value standpoint, so what's the real almost philosophical concept if you were going to try and sell this product? It would be things like independence, right? Think about how important independence is as you become elderly. One of the biggest challenges for people as they get older is the loss of dependence, the loss of ability to control their own lives, to walk around independently, to do what they want to do. I'm sure we've all seen that in elderly loved ones that we have. The hydraulic walker, right, it gives them that independence. It keeps them independent. They can handle stairs or whatever it is, right? So in thinking about what's truly important to the user, you can convey your messaging in a way that's going to hit those buttons for them, capture their attention, and most importantly, kind of stimulate action, because you need your consumers to come to you, right? The old adage of, you can take a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. We can show your products to thousands of people, but your products have to inspire in them the want to act, the want to engage, the want to buy. And you can only do that by speaking to them about the values that are most important to them. Then we've got one more example. This is a really good one, Invisaware, which I know Holly has spoken about at some of the previous difference maker events, right? Invisaware does unbelievably well, right? And what Invisaware is it's kind of a discrete jewelry that people can wear. and it kind of allows them to basically be able to press this SOS button whenever they end up in trouble, and it can call, I think it automatically calls a loved one and automatically, you know, sends a ping out to the police or whatever it is, right? So what are the values here that they're communicating? Well, the main value they're communicating is they know that safety is really, really important, right? But the other thing that they've done is they haven't just sold this on the idea of safety. They've thought, well, what are the other kind of, I guess, barriers and almost intangibles that are important to our audience, right? Well, let's think about who the audience for InvisaWare is. It's young women who feel that they are at risk walking around alone in cities and they want to be safe, right? Well, what else are the other important things to them, right? What else is important to them is dressing well, looking cool, trends, all the kind of stuff that we think about, right? It's the reason I don't use an iPhone case, right? There's almost these subjective and almost irrational things that we prioritize. You prioritize looking, you know, you prioritize looking cool over safety. Yes, I mean, I can name 100 decisions of people who do things that aren't safe because it looks cool, right? So InvisaWare were aware of this when they were designing their product, and they said it doesn't just have to provide them a function, it has to also fit in with the other things that are important, which is it has to look good, it has to be discreet, so that there's no other barriers for them to integrate it and use it within their lives. I'll tell you one story, and then we're going to go into our breakout rooms. When I first started after I left university, I worked with the military, and so I was a social scientist for the army, and we went to this this kind of military thing, and this SAS guy comes up, and I kid you not, the man's 6'4", looks like G.I. Joe up here, basically, with an absolute skinhead, and he's talking to us about how the military used science and basically what was of value to them. And he told us a couple of things that were kind of interesting, like his main battle was actually just having a working fridge in the desert. But he said to us, he said, if you're ever going to design anything for the military, make it black, because then they'll feel like they're in the special forces and they'll definitely want to use it more. And it's all of these little things that we often don't think about, but these are the barriers to why people wouldn't use your product. And one of the things that I find from people when they're developing these products is they run away, right? They get these amazing ideas, they see the opportunity, they come up with the solution, right? Ask yourself, when you're developing this, after you've said what value does it give to people, right? Think to yourself, why wouldn't they use it? And introspect what the barriers may be. And that's giving you more of the values that are important to your target audience. But I'd ask you to think about that. What are the barriers that would stop someone using it? And how can you think in advance? And how can you overcome that? But what this all comes down to in terms of your pitch and your elevator pitch is that in a single sentence, right? And this is what we call the value proposition. You need to describe what you're providing, to whom you're providing it, how it solves the customer's problems, and why it is better, faster, cheaper, and than other competitive offerings, right? This is the one sentence you have to convince somebody to overcome inertia, to abandon the status quo, and to invest or take a chance on what you're offering them. So you need to know what their values are, why your product addresses those values, and why it addresses those values better than anybody else, right? And that's the challenge we now have in creating the energy and the intention to use what you're designing. So what we're going to do, actually, we have another 10-minute breakout room, and you can go back into the same breakout rooms, is take us, I know that a couple of people have already spoken here, they already have these kind of opportunities or these solutions in their mind. Take one of them, map out the value of it at the different levels in which it has to get engagement. So maybe you have a customer, right, a user, and then maybe you have the person that has to pay for it, or in some cases, maybe the person paying for it is also the customer. But what value are you providing to them? And why should they be using your products? And what we have is we actually have a couple value examples, right? So we sell product to customer. Their problem is this, and we solve this problem by doing this. So here's an example from non-spec, right? So we sell a low-cost, durable, and natural prosthetic limb to amputees. Our customer has a problem, lack of affordability of affordable limbs that can improve quality of life. We solve this problem by mass producing easily adjustable prosthetic components. They've tried all of these other things, and we're different because we provide for caregivers that allow for efficient customization and easy at-home adjustments for parents. So their value is that they're providing a service cheaper and quicker than everybody else that allows these people who previously weren't able to access prosthetic limbs to now have movement, function, and independence. So in a single sentence, they've communicated all of those things. So what I'm going to get you all to do now is I'm going to get you to go back into your breakout rooms, and you can self-select back into them. They should still be open, and try and put together a single value statement that in one, not one sentence, but in one kind of paragraph or one kind of flow of language, if you will, can convince me the value of what you've developed and make me want to use it. And I would ask you, even if it isn't in what you write down, think about these philosophical, broader values that drive humans, because that's where you get the real psychological engagement. When you speak about underlying philosophies, right? Freedom, safety, security, health, love, these big, dare we say, buzzwords, but that's where the psychological engagement comes in. And so tap into those. What are the sacred values? Make me believe. There you go. So no, with that, I'm going to get everyone to jump into breakout rooms. Well, welcome back. That's fantastic. I hope you all enjoyed your breakout room. So by my clock, I reckon we have time for a few value propositions. So is anyone feeling particularly confident or ready to share kind of their value statement? So how are you going to convince us the worth and the value your product or solution provides?
I mean, I could.
Hi.
Yes. Okay. So we've got Max. Why don't you go first, and then we'll go with Eunice.
Okay.
You can go second.
All right. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, sir.
All right. So in terms of, I'm going to talk about two different perspectives. So from an insurance and, from like a customer, the patient perspective. So in terms of the patient perspective, think of it as, so you have stem cells, right? You have you have an injury. Some people do rehab, physical therapy, all that kind of stuff, and they get it back to a point where it's good. It's in a decent state. However, with chronic injury and stuff like that, sometimes people, it's just like, there's some type of inflammation, or there's some niggling area that's just like, it just can't get rid of it.
Mm-hmm.
So using, stem cell therapy as, helping improve, making it more accessible and more backed by things like the FDA and health insurance and stuff like that. So that, backing it with that, with physical therapy and stuff like that. So let's say like somebody, tore the hand.
Max, I'm going to stop you right there. The one thing I've got you to, this is what you're going to have to work on, because I 100% believe that that there are, and it sounds like there are many benefits, right?
Yeah.
For you, it's going to be coalescing all of this into, and I'm going to say people, humans, us, cognitive misers. And what I mean by that is we don't like to think.
Okay.
So what you need to do is coalesce this complexity into single unifying statements or concepts, right? You've got to get it down to that one or two sentence. We do this.
Okay.
You know what I mean? You're getting there. You're getting there. I'm going to come back to you. I'm going to come back to you. Okay. So we're going to have time at the end. You're going to be my last person. Think on this, Max. Don't jump in now. Think on this. All right, Eunice.
All right, thank you. I think my team, we are Aqua Dynamics, and our problem is we are determined to solve pollution that plastics bring to our water through the usage of alternative filtration. And then we saw that, human beings, we also derive our livelihood from the ocean. And like not only human beings, livestock, everyone, we all depend on the ocean. So we kind of, plastics end up finding their ways after being used in the oceans. And, they kind of, cause a lot of harm, not only to the livestock, but bring out carbon dioxide that also end up depleting the ozone layer. So the value that, because of time, I might not break down, but we all know the kind of waste that plastic generates each year. And, because it is not degradable, it takes a very long time to, before it can, degrade. And so we are also thinking that we are building a filtration method that will help, solve that problem of the waste. And then our group, we are also going to create a platform which will educate the public about the dangers of the plastic waste.
Okay, Eunice, I'm going to have to stop you there just so we can move on. But to me, it sounds like it's got a fantastic value in terms of what it's doing in terms of keeping the ocean kind of plastic free. But you've already tapped into that more philosophical aspect of kind of the relationship of the world to the ocean and kind of the purity of the environment aspect. So to me, you've got both things in there. You've got the nitty gritty, really what value we're providing. And then you have that broader idea of our relationship with the environment and nature. Really good. Okay, Jack/Emily.
All right. So our product is an apple a day, and we sell pill cases for caretakers to buy for younger people. 20% of children take medication, and 30% of teenagers also take medication. And a lot of the times they have problems maintaining a vitamin regimen. And also there's usually a stigma that if you take medications and you have this pill case around, most people associate that with older people and nobody wants to be compared to a grandma. We solve this problem by creating a fun, whimsical, and discreet pill organizer for people to use.
Yes, 100%. That's everything I'm looking for in life. And yours is, no, but yours is the one I'm thinking about. Like, you've got to be thinking, it's not just about the function, right, of the organizing of the pills. You've got this interesting audience of young kids, and we all know what young kids are thinking about. It's trends, it's what fits in, right? And you already tapped into that with kind of the fun, the whimsical. You're aware of kind of what it means to fit in and the idea of stigma. Jack, that was fantastic. I super enjoyed that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, what is the last one? Ariel and then Connor.
Yep, so my team member is Brian. We're selling a food production system to nonprofits and people suffering from food insecurity. So food insecurity is, it typically affects, well, it can affect really anyone, and it's caused because either the food source is compromised or there's an issue in the transportation of food. And we solve this by providing a cheap, efficient, a space efficient, energy efficient way of producing food. And our sacred values are going to be fairness, as well as, the basic idea of no one should go hungry.
Love it, love it. Love the way that you pulled out those bigger values there that drive all of us. Because so having worked closely with the non-profit difference makers in the past, that's what really helps you, because you're asking people to give you money with no promise of fiscal return on investment. What's going to drive them? That belief in making the world a better place. So for you specifically, those are the things you need to tap on. And that was fantastic, Ariel. I absolutely loved it. All right, Connor.
Thank you.
Anytime, Connor, and then I'm going to come back to Max, and he better be able to get this into 2 sentences. So where's Connor?
Yep, right here.
Let's go. I'm ready.
All right, thank you, Neil. So iCam focuses on the market of the visually impaired. If you look, the top 10 visually impaired products that are sold in the US do not focus on the ability to have the visually impaired person operate better, but rather focus on the education, because most of the products are sold focusing on Braille or, like I said, focusing on education. But with ICAM, what it focuses on is basically enhancing the sensations and the directions of the visually impaired to be able to feel and sense everything that's around that person. And I truly believe that with this product, that the visually impaired can feel more closer to regular society and not feel so far away.
Oh my God, that sounds fantastic. I mean, it sounds like you're literally giving back this almost experience, this lived experience, which is something that money can't buy. So no, fantastic. I loved it. I loved it. I think that's it's a really good idea. And then also you've got so much like in terms of the visual aspect of being in society, living in society, all the things and stigma, a bit like kind of Jackson there. That was great. I loved it. All right, what have we got? Hang on, someone's talking to me. After Max. All right, so we've got Max, you've got 2 sentences, and I'm cutting you off after that. So come on, impress me, my friend. Value.
Okay. All right. So you have this issue, right? You have this chronic injury that you're just struggling with.
Yep.
You know, this makes sense because 85% of people with chronic pain are affected by severe depression. You have stem cells that can, with this combined with physical therapy, could potentially turn your tissue back into what it was even before that injury. So, you know, you have this, you know, lingering issue, and this could be the potential way that you can get this tissue back. So even not even just where it was, but maybe even potentially better than that, since it can help regenerate tissue.
That is so much closer to what I want to hear, my friend. Yeah, that is closer to the value statement, right? So your technology can outperform the other technologies, and you can give me back the life I had pre-injury.
Yeah, and then
if your campaign doesn't feature Tiger Woods, I'm going to be absolutely distraught. So actually, no, you can't. He had surgery, but never mind. All right, okay, we've got Stadman. You are my last one. So value statement, sir.
Okay, so have you ever imagined a world where there will be a bunch of tractors where they can plow hundreds of acres of land a day? Or have you imagined a world where we can fight the next pandemic? Or have you ever thought of a place where we would be able to combat very critical diseases? So for this, we need research and development. However, even in the United States and in third world countries, small and medium businesses do not have the money to spend in research and development. So we would like to work on as a private research and development firm. We'd like to outsource our academic resources, technologies, and innovation and inventions to these small and medium scale businesses, so that they can come up with new innovations and inventions every 6 months to within a year. And there are a couple of sellers in the market, but they charge a lot of money on an hourly basis for consultancy and providing innovation and inventions for research and development. But we would like to take our money as a commission based on the quantity they produce. That's kind of our business model. And we would like to do it in 6 to 9 months, and we would like to patent each and every of our innovations so that we can bring uniqueness in the market, so that our clients, competitors do not get affected by it. Thank you.
Okay, that was very good. Okay, couple thoughts. I mean, I love the idea. I mean, I think that so it sounds like you're offering basically innovation consultancy support, but faster, cheaper, and more adaptively. So just try and drill it down into a slightly more concise, like what we bring to you. And the other thing I'd say is just think about if the customer that you're working with is the only person who's investing in you, or if you need wider investors, what do they get? And it's probably something along the lines of a more vibrant market, more innovation is better for everyone, you know, all these kind of things. But that was really, really good. All right, everyone. That is the end. We have run over time. My wife is going to kill me when I pick her up from work, but I had so much fun. I enjoy doing this every year. So thank you for all of your innovation. I can't wait to see you at the pitch offs. I can't wait to see your value statements. I can't wait to see you tap into those sacred values, maybe make me cry a little bit. But don't trust the rationality of people, everyone. Come on. I need you to think about their value systems. I need you to sell to them. I need you to get them excited, and I need you to get them active. All right. And it's a tough thing, but you can do it. So thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Brent, who is always better than me and more on topic than me. So thank you, Brent, as always, my friend. And Holly, unless you have any last words.
Yes, I just wanted to remind everyone to register for workshop 3. Workshop 3, right? Yes, losing track of time. Workshop 3, which is this Thursday evening. I will send you an email reminder about that. A recording for this evening's event will go out within 24 to 48 hours. And if you have any questions, I'll stay a little bit later here in the event, but you can also always email me. And I did want to thank everyone for taking their time this evening to join us, especially Professor Shortland and Professor Shell, who are the guest speakers this evening and really helped to prepare everything very nicely. And we had some of our faculty fellows here this evening: Kevin Willett, Tom Wilkes, Kathy Levy, and then also Tom O'Donnell, who oversees the innovation hubs at UMass Lowell. So I wanted to thank all of them for being here this evening. And of course, our awesome co-op students, Lena, Yiharn, Adam, and Victor. So thank you all this evening, and I will stay here a little bit later if anyone has any questions, and hopefully see you Thursday.